Hello, everyone. This is a North America Math Contest Go Go Go. Starting on this video, we will make a new series of videos that focus on everything about IB Diploma so that it helps people to survive the IB Diploma. I make this series of video because like it is now January and many students, prospective grade 10 students, are suffering from choosing whether to take the IB Diploma and whether to know about the future for the IB Diploma. For grade 11 and 12 students, they are at the stage where the IB Diploma seems to be the most suffered to them. You may wonder about why. I will explain to you in later videos. Not in this video, but in future videos. You will know that. So in this video, we'll first talk about what IB is, and second, talk about some questions that you may need to think about in making your decisions for the IB Diploma. So, let's first talk about what IB is. IB stands for International Baccalaureate. It is a 2-year program that runs in grade 11 to 12. So, the IB Diploma includes 6 subjects and called groups, which they are studies in language and literature, language acquisition, individual and society, natural sciences, mathematics, and arts. Students are expected to choose one course from each group for a total of 6 courses. However, students can also choose an alternative plan where students don't choose group 6. Instead, they choose an additional course from group 2, 3, 4, all 4. Okay. There is also another IB diploma called, I remember it's called non-standard or non-traditional IB diploma, where you are allowed to take like 3 subjects from a group. So basically, you can just choose a group 1 course, group 2 course, group 3 course, and 3 group 4 course. I don't know whether that type of IB courses selection will get you an IB diploma, but I'm not sure about that. And also just a disclaimer for the IB here, what I mean is IB full diploma, which we generally call it as full IB. For the part IB, it is basically you just choose one, 2, or 3 courses from IB, from a list of IB courses provided in your school, which will be much easier compared to the full diploma. So, Group 1 is the 6th subject. Group 1 is studies in language and literature. It is courses where students are expected to demonstrate a native level understanding on the language and literature affiliated to the targeted language. Group 1 is usually categorized into 2 types, language and literature and language. Sorry, it's literature and language and literature. For example, there is English literature and there's English language and literature. The main difference between literature and language and literature is that literature mainly focuses on the literature part of the target language, while language and literature, while it focuses on the literature part, which is literary analysis, it will also focus on like some non-literature, like things that is not that affiliated to the literature, such as new medias or or like new medias or something. So in one word, language and literature is more broad and diverse than the literature. Can be shown through easy examples. In literature, we are expected to I'm expected to read 13 books for every during for the duration of 2 years. While for language and literature, this number is generally reduced to 3 or 4. So we can see the blatant difference between the two. And also, just one thing to mention, students can also choose not to take group 2 and instead they take 2 group 1s, I'm going to say this again. Students can also choose not to take group 2 and instead take 2 group 1 courses, which, for example, they can take English A literature and English language and literature. They can choose to take English literature and French language and literature. And in this case, it is called bilingual diploma. Which the main advantage of bilingual diploma, to be honest, I don't know. It's just on your like the IB final the IB like IB completion diploma. I mean, how should I say it? Completion certificate. It will show a award called bilingual diploma awarded. Okay. So for group two, it is called language acquisition. There are three levels. Ab initial, which for ab initial, you do not need to have any understanding about the subject. And SL standard level, which is that standard level and a higher level, which we call it SL and HL, require to have some background knowledge about the language acquisition. And HL will, to some and higher level language acquisition, to some extent, will require you to know a bit about the language and culture literature affiliated to the target language. So this means HR higher level also means like a more complex diction use and a higher level of like interpreting the language. And also HR group 2 H higher levels I sometimes are expected to read books during their like 2 years of studies. For example, I'm taking a Mandarin language acquisition, and for and the course, and I remember I'm supposed to read two books, and one of them is called To Leave, and the other is called Thunderstorm. I don't know whether that's the correct translation. But however, you don't need to write a literary analysis to those books. All you need to do is that you would only need to be able to interpret the meaning of the book, and that's all you need. You only need to know what the book talks about, and that's all. In fact, if you just some quick hint, if you like talks about if you want to show your superiority on group two and you like do a lot of literary analysis, this will be considered as bad for IB examiners. In this case, they will deduct you points. That's surprising, right? Yeah, but it's just facts. Group 3 is individual and society. Basically, in one word, it's called social science, where you are expected to choose a like social science courses. I mean, an IB social science courses. Some example of it called history as history, IB history, IB geography, and IB info tech in a global society called ITGS. To be honest, this is the last year of ITGS. Starting on the next year, ITGS will be like transformed into another course called what's that called? Digital management, right? Digital management in a global society or something, I forget. But anyhow, this is the last year that the infotech in a global society course will be there. So yeah, and I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Group 4 is called natural sciences. Natural sciences is basically you need to choose a natural science course. Some of the common courses that is people choose is IB physics, IB chemistry, and IB biology. However, those courses are generally considered as the most difficult courses in IB. Some of the easier courses like IB ESS, environmental science, and IB computer science. Maybe not computer science. I think it's because of my perspective. Um, and which is also quite self-explanatory. And group 5 is mathematics. Mathematics, there are so basically you are required to choose like at you can choose like there are 6 levels of mathematics course in IB you can choose. HL, which they are HL analysis and approach, which we usually call that HLAA. HL analysis and interpretation, which is HLAI. SL analysis approach, which is SLAA, SL analysis AI, which is SL analysis and interpretation, and math studies, which is the easiest one. In terms of you may be very confused about what the hell am I saying? What the hell is HL, SL, AA, AI? Don't worry, I will explain them later. I will explain them in this video later. But for now, all you need to know is that HL analysis and approaches is the most difficult Group 5 mathematics subject, while SL analysis and interpretation is the most easiest. Sorry, not it's the second easiest subject. Second easiest mathematics subjects in Group 5, and math studies is the most difficult. Sorry, sorry, not most difficult. Math studies is the most easiest IB subject. Sorry, math studies is the most easiest IB mathematics subjects. That's all you need to know. However, like many universities do not recognize math studies. They do not consider math studies as a legit course. Like for example, Canada. When applied to Canadian university, they will always say math studies is not accepted. Math studies is not accepted. Math studies is not accepted. That's quite bad, right? Okay, now we are going to talk about more things of those six subjects. You can see that during my communication, I always talk about a lot of things. Like I always repeatedly say one word. Sorry. During my communication, I always repeatedly say one word, HR or SL. What do they represent? HR is higher level, SL is standard level. Higher level usually means that the course's content will be more difficult than SL, and it will also mean like more assessments compared to SL. A major so I'm going to tell you a fact is that in higher level, teachers will usually spend 240 hours teaching students, while standard level teachers are expected to spend 150 hours to teach students. So this means that if you take HR, you will have 90 hours of more class time, like time to learn. That's the thing. It's like if you take HR, you are expected to learn more content. 90 hours worth of more content than SL. We really say that HR is more difficult than SL. However, like the extent of difficulty for HR compared to SL like varies a lot between different groups. So for example, group 1, like this, literally there's almost no difference between HR and SL. I remember HR is just you are supposed to read 2 more book or 3 more book. Oh, that's not right? HR and SL in group 1, which is like studies in language and literature, has almost no difference. There's almost no difference between HR group 1 and SL group 1. However, for group 4 and 5, HR and SL does make a lot of difference. I have to say this. In group 4 and group 5 in group 4 and group 5 courses, HR is significantly harder than SL. Okay? And then for group 6 subject, sorry that I forgot to talk about the group 6 subject, but the group 6 subject just refers to visual arts, where you are supposed to choose a course, where the courses in group 6 are very related to visual arts, such as like visual arts and IB visual arts and IB, let me think. Is there IB music theory? I don't know. IB visual arts, which is mainly focused on drawing, and IB like music. Music theory? I don't know. I think there's a course in IB affiliated with music theory, but you can just check the full curriculum list. Okay. In group 6, HL should be like similar to SL, but in group 6 subjects, HL should be like considerably difficult than SL, but there is not a significant difference between HL and SL courses in group 6. In each subjects, we often would let's talk about the marking rubric for those subjects. Basically, those subjects are marked. Each subject is marked from 1 to 7, where 7 is the highest and 1 is the lowest. There is a rubric for teachers to like there exists a rubric for teacher that talks about the descriptive comments of a student at a certain grade level. So, for example, the rubric will talk about what a typical student who has a score of 4 on one subject would behave, and what a typical student with a score of 7 in one subject would behave, which this is the rubric that teachers would assess. In this rubric, it will include descriptive comments that distinguish students in terms of their grade in one subject. In one subject, yeah. However, some teacher will just use a more primitive method. They will just say like, if you get a class average of, sorry, if you get a class score of what, you will get a 7. If you get a class score of what, you will get a 6. Usually in American schools, it should be if you can get 80% or higher in classes, you will be able to get a predicted in 7. However, in Canada, it's much more intensive. You would have to get like 96 or 97%. And even if you get those percents, like teachers will still have to evaluate your potential to see whether to give you a 7. So in this case, it causes that in Canada, like 7 is a very rare thing. It's actually very rare. It's actually very rare. 7 is a very rare thing in Canada. So usually a score of 3, at least 3 is considered as pass, and most universities would accept 5, an IB score of 5 for grade transfer. I think some higher level schools require 6. Sorry, I mean some like more elite schools will like only consider IB scores with 6 and above, but most schools allow you to transfer credits if you have an IB score of 5 or higher. Most schools will allow it. Mm. Okay, let's talk about the now let's talk about the assessments in each subject. In each subject, there will be something called IA, which is internal assessment. It refers to a series. It refers to one project related to the subject that you will have to complete at the first half of second year. It refers to a series of projects that you would, sorry, it refers to one specific project that you would have to complete in the second year of IB, which the project will be counted as 20% of your final grade. 20%. I think it depends on the course and whether the course is HR or SL. In some cases, it is 20%. In some cases, it's 30. In some cases, it is even 40%. So, for example, in mathematics HR, you are expected to write an internal assessment called mathematic exploration, where you are supposed to write a 20-page essay. Um, you are supposed to write a 20-page essay talking about using mathematics to solve a issue. Yes, you are supposed to. For mathematics, there is an internal assessment that expects you to write 20 pages talking about using mathematical ways to solve a global issue. Those IA, which we call internal assessment, will usually be will usually be evaluating inside your school. So basically, it's your teacher giving you marks, but a selected sample of those subjects, of those but some of those IAs will also be moderated. So basically, it's that the IB, it selects a certain number of students in each school and mark their IA. If the final score of their IA is different from what the teacher, if the score they marked is different than the score the teacher marked, then the IB will adjust the difference up or down. So for example, if the teacher marks a student's 8, If the teacher marks 5 students and the average of those students, sorry, if 5 students are selected for the to the IB, 5 students in one school are selected to the IB, and the average score teacher marked for their IA is 8. And after IB marks those papers again, they find that they have an average score of 10. So in this case, even though it's only those 5 students, the entire school's IA on that subject will be increased by 2. You understand what I mean? So basically, it's that during the moderation subject, depending on the difference between teacher's mark and IB's mark, the entire class's IB score on the internal assessment may be adjusted up or down. And there is a final exam for every subject, which we call it May exam. The May exam for each subject is often taken, like it often requires you to write multiple papers. So in this case, we call them paper 1, paper 2, and paper 3. Paper 1 is usually multiple choice, and paper 2 is usually like free response questions. However, it would differ depend on the courses. However, this standard will be different depending on the courses. For example, Group 1 in IB Literature would the final exam of Group 1 in IB Literature would require you to, I think it's writing about let me think. It will give you 2 random essays and you are required to write a commentary on it. While paper 2, it gives you a prompt and you are required to write a comparison commentary between the 2 books. So this is the difference between the 2. So we have to talk about the external moderation and internal moderation. Okay, now let's talk about the predicted grade. Usually we know that the final score of IB student, the final score of IB comes after the May exam, where students complete their tests, where students complete their final tests. However, the final test is taken at the May of the grade 12. And while many university applications starts at like the September or November of second year. In this case, university would have to require in this case, students would have to present to university a grade in order for university to assess and evaluate their academic skill. In this case, schools will provide students. I mean, the student secondary school the students' teachers will provide students with a predicted grade, which this grade predicts what they will do in how they will do in May exam, and this grade is called predicted grade. The predicted grade will be sent to the university for application, sent to the students' universities, so that the universities can evaluate the students' academic skill based on those predicted grades. There are often 2 rounds of predicted grade coming up for students. One of them is at September, and one of them is at one of them is at January. Usually there are 2, September and January. Those 2 rounds of the predicted grade. Students can choose either of them to apply. Students can choose either of the predicted grade to apply to IB schools. Okay. Sorry. Students can choose either of the predicted grade to apply to universities, not IB schools, universities. Um, Now let's talk about the 3 what's that called? 3 core courses. We always say that the IB 6 subjects, each subject has a what's that called? Has a score of 1 to 7. But the total mark of IB is out of 45. So where is the other 3 mark come out? In fact, the other 3 marks come out from 3 core subjects called TOK, which is Theory of Knowledge, EE, Extended Essay, and CAS, Creativity, Activity, and Service. Let's first talk about EE. EE or extended essay is that students are expected to write a 4,000-word essay in one or related to one of the subject groups. So, for example, students can write an essay about like a subject in sorry, students can write an essay related to social sciences or related to natural sciences. The essays are a research paper, are similar to a research paper. Extended essay is usually is usually externally moderated, which means that your teacher may not control the score you get. Instead, is IB will mark them directly to give you a score. IB will mark your like extended essay directly to give you a score. However, for the predicted grade purposes, teacher will usually like also mark your extended essay to give you a predicted grade. Teachers will also mark your teachers will mark your extended essay first to give you predicted grade, and after that, your extended essay is sent to the IBO, and IBO marks you to give you a final grade. The E is marked like from A to E based on a criteria from A to E, where A stands for the best and E stands for the failure. Like the E is actually a failure. If you get a E on E, no matter how high your score of your other subject is, you will not get your IB diploma or simply diploma not awarded. Now let's talk about the TOK. TOK is theory of knowledge. Basically, it is more like a philosophy course where you are able to where you need to explore on the where you need to explore on the what's that called? You need to explore on the okay, it's hard to say, but just consider TOK as more like a philosophy course where you learn about let me think about how to talk about TOK. Okay, according to IB, it aims to provide an opportunity for students to reflect on the nature of knowledge and on how we know what we claim to know. This is what theory of knowledge is. It's more similar to a philosophy course. Basically, in TOK, it is similar to regular subjects where you have to go to school every day. Sorry, you have to like go to school every day and take what's that called? Where there will be a specific course called IBTOK, and you have to go to school and to take that course. You got what I mean? So there will be a course called IBTOK, and you would have to go to the school to get that to take that course. TOK usually has like two internal assessments. One of them is called TOK essay, and the other is called TOK exhibition. TOK exhibition require you to answer one of the 45 questions listed in their what's that called listed in their handbook. One of the 45 questions listed in their handbook using three objects. So basically, you need to choose three objects from the natural world, such as a pencil box or something, and connect the objects to the questions. One of the 45 questions that you choose. And the TOK essay is that it will give you like several prompts every year, and you are required to analyze those prompts. It will give you several prompts every year, and you need to choose one from those prompts and write an essay about it. So, for example, in this year's TOK, there's a course. There is like in this year's TOK essay, there is one. question asking you, does it matter if our acquisition of knowledge happens in bubbles where some what I call voices and information are excluded? Explain in respect to two areas of knowledge. Think about this question. This question is very difficult to understand. I mean, it's easy to understand, but it's difficult to write upon. So think about this question carefully by writing. Compared to TOK and EE, CAS does not count. I mean, CAS is not a course. I mean, sorry. What I mean here is CAS. There's a second core course is called CAS. So basically, first of all, CAS is not for marks. This means that your performance of CAS will not contribute to your final IB score out of 45 or your predicted score out of 45. However, if you fail CAS, you will not be able to get the IB diploma. CAS is called Creativity, Activity, and Service. It requires you to complete 150 hours of activity, 150 hours of events in three categories: creativity, activity, and service. Creativity refers to creativity, like creative work, such as filming my video. Like I film my video. This is called creativity. Activity refers to sport and exercise. For example, you run, you jump, like you play football. And service is just referred to voluntary work. So, for example, you like volunteer in an event or something. This will be called volunteer. Volunteer. Sorry, what's that called? Service. We need to complete 150 hours in total for the three strands. Each strand it needs to be at least 50 hours for a total of 150 hours. During the completion of those events, you are required to regularly write reflections that talks about how you did in those events, and those reflections are usually completed on a software called Management, which I will discuss with you later. Like TOKE CAS, that's all as 6 subjects. Yeah, and I think that's all for the like. Oh, and also let's talk about the and we need to talk about the 3 points. The 3 points are all from TOKEE. It usually like you will depends on your performance in TOKEE. You will be awarded with a bonus point of either 0, 1, 2, 3. For example, if you are really excellent, you get A in TOK and A in EE, you can get a 3. However, if you barely pass, you get a D in TOK or D in EE, you will get a 0. If you are mediocre, like you get B in TOK and C in EE, you'll usually get a like 2 points. Okay, so now let's talk about everything aside. Let's talk about the most important thing, whether you should choose IB or not. First of all, let me start a disclaimer. You need to make the decision of whether choosing the IB diploma by yourself. Because me or other like me or who other YouTubers who are also taking the IB diploma, they have different perspectives than you. So because of our personal experience, we may have different perspectives that does not resonate with your current situation. So our advices and suggestions may not reflect what you will experience because of our difference in perspectives and personal experiences. Yeah. So one thing that you need to consider about IB is its high difficulty. Some IB, like you will see some YouTubers says like IB is not that difficult, but like those YouTubers they are like very good. They have 45 in every subject. They have 4 marks. They have like all subjects getting 4 marks. They have their TOKE, CAS, act writing perfectly done. So one interesting thing about YouTube is that YouTube tend to be like a more elite. it tend to be more elite. Like only people with IB 44 or 45, almost full marks, would like talk about their experience in choosing IB. While the majority of us, we have like medical mark, we have like decent IB score, or maybe we are failing. We won't like start a video in here saying like saying about our experience. Usually it's people in 44 or 45 who like will say about their IB experience. That is the same for like university application. I don't know, when you scan through the university application, you will always see like how some people claim that okay, they go to top schools, Ivy League, like Ivy League. Let me think, what's that? What else? Like top UC schools, other top private universities, and you may feel like okay, everyone's so smart and I'm so stupid, which is it's normal. It's fine, but I'm just going to say that not everyone is like what this phenomenon. It results in like there's only one perspective. There's only one perspective in YouTube. People, those are 44 and 45. That's the most YouTubers at this point. I mean, sorry, that's the most IB YouTubers. That's the most IB YouTubers who is willing to present their IB experience. Most of them are 44 or 45. So, so their perspective is like there's only one perspective, and I think I'm going to present another perspective from you. Personally, I consider myself as a like very bad IB student. I have like an IB score of barely passing 35 and um, oh, I think to start that, we also need to talk about the failing and passing conditions of IB. That's something I forgot to tell. Basically, to pass IB, you will need to like fulfill several requirements. First of all, you need to get an IB score of at least 24 or out of 45. Second of all, you cannot get an E in either TOK or EE. Third of all, you have to complete CAS. Fourth of all, you cannot get a score of 1 in any subjects. Fifth of all, your SL, your total SL scores cannot be less than 9 points, while your total HR scores cannot be less than 12 points. I think it's like that. Yeah, it's like that. And seventh of all, you cannot have more than two subjects. You cannot have more than two subjects less than a final score of 2, while like more than 4 subjects with a score less than 3. And eighth of all, you have to submit your IA, internal assessment of every subject, in order to like receive an IB diploma. And tenth of all, you cannot cheat. I think those are the all IB, all like requirements for you to get an IB diploma. They seem very complex, but all you need to know is that you need to score as well, like as best as possible in exam. That's all you need to know. Let's go back to talk about the topic of perspective. I consider myself as a very bad IB student. I barely passed. I have a like predicted score of 35, which is quite bad. And compared to like if you are Asian parents who are hearing like this video, I don't think you guys will like persist hearing to hear. Sorry, sorry. I think you guys will like quit this video at 3 minutes or 4 minutes. But if you guys are here, I think if you are Asian parents, you are definitely think, okay, this kid getting 35 is so bad. It's a disgrace of society. That's how many Asians think. They want their kids to get 44, 45, or absolute full marks. But I believe if I can tell you, if I from this different perspective than other people, I can tell you like something. I can tell you from my perspective about like whether choosing IB is good or not. So it gives you like it allows you to hear different perspective and you can make a wise decision. you can have a balanced decision, a wise decision of whether choosing an IB diploma. One thing that you need to consider is time and difficulty. Because IB it takes because IB it's very difficult. I'm going to tell you first. HL subjects are very difficult. SL subjects in science are also very difficult. Again, difficulty is a subjective word. Like something people I consider difficult may not be like considered difficult as well. So if something I consider is difficult, it does not mean that you also feel that it is difficult. However, let me think. From my experiences, sciences they are very difficult courses. You have to like study very hard. And English, sorry, I'm not saying language and literature is also very difficult. You have to read 13 books. Each book you are required to write commentary and analysis, and there will also be like various projects. So this is going to be a very intense for project. Group 1. Group 5, mathematics, is also like pretty difficult course, especially for HL. Especially for HL. Like I have looked at like all courses. I have looked at AHL. It's more sorry. As someone who have experience in taking AHL, like Math AHL is basically the combination of AP Calculus BC and AP Statistics and Pre-Calculus and some new vectors knowledge. It's pretty complex. It's very complex. It's like it's a combination of two or three AP math related courses. It's very complex. It's a combination of about two or three AP mathematics courses. It's complex. So basically, you need to consider the difficulty of like subjects when choosing the IB. This is something you must consider. And also, IB would want someone who is well balanced. It's because that given each course has considerable difference. I mean difficulty. You need to be like very well balanced in every subject in order to choose IB. So for me, I was pretty good in math. I was pretty good in social sciences. But for other subjects, it is just going to be like it's just going to be very hard for me. So therefore, I would need to spend a lot of time on those subjects. But even so, I cannot get a like high mark. This is something you also need to think. You need to be well balanced in all subjects. And the third one is intensity. IB is a marathon because it's 2 years. For 2 years, you will experience every day. You will experience assignments, subjects, tests, quizzes, internal assessments, and like studying, and TOKE CAS. This is just going to be your daily life every day. It just so you need to be like feel. You need to be like feel very intense for every day. It is going to be an intense for schedule every day. So yeah, just treat it as a marathon. But this is also something you need to consider. Are you able to like keep through the 2 years given such high intensity? Now let's talk about the reputation. Now let's talk about some other factors you need to consider. Reputations of teacher and IB school. This is very straightforward. If a school deflates grade or teaches, if a school deflates your IB predicted grade, or if a school just literally teaches nothing, if an IB school has teachers that teach nothing, then just don't choose IB. Okay, at least don't choose IB in your school. And second of all is analyze. Also need to analyze the difficulty of subjects provided in your school, depending on the resourcefulness of school. Some schools can provide a more variety of IB courses, while some schools do not. So, for example, in my school doesn't have. Let me think. My school doesn't have like easier IB courses, ESS, math studies. We don't have them. And we also, like for some courses, we even don't have SL. We have to choose between IB chemistry, IB physics, IB biology. That's the only choices presented to us. Like for some IB school, I have a thing. in some IB school, I think they only for social science they only have IB history and IB science, geography. Like that just forces you to choose one courses between the two. So you need to evaluate the difficulty between the subjects provided in your school. I will also talk about the difficulty of some subjects that I have taken. So yeah, overall, I think like this video would give you some understanding about what IB is, and along with giving you advices on whether you should choose the IB diploma or not. So I think that marks the end of our lesson. Sorry, that marks the end of our videos, and I hope you have learned a lot. See you next week. Bye bye.